IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with suspension bridges. Did you know that the longest suspension bridge in the world is in Portugal? The 516 Arouca Bridge spans 516 meters. Now, to put things in perspective, that is more than half a kilometer of walking on a bridge that is held together by some steel cables and what can only be described as chicken wire mesh. Now, that is really scary stuff. And this bridge is in the Arouca Geopark of northern Portugal. And it's absolutely beautiful and absolutely terrifying. If you're following me on Instagram, you know about my love-hate relationships with suspension bridges. I first encountered them on my way to Everest Base Camp. And these long, thin bridges high above the Dudh Koshi River were just so scary, especially for someone like me who has a fear of heights. Now, these bridges become a natural hotspot for people taking pictures along the trek. And as a result, traffic jams occur on the bridge. Apart from trekkers taking pictures, one often has yaks coming from the opposite side of the bridge just while you're halfway through it. Now, I remember this one terrifying moment when I was stuck in the middle of the bridge with people taking pictures ahead of me. And as I turned to go back because I didn't want to stand in the middle, I saw a yak coming at me, blocking the entire other side. I was so scared. And if you're wondering why I'm telling you all this, it's because I want to tell you about guilt. Guilt is this emotion that makes you feel like you are stuck in the middle of a suspension bridge high above a valley floor. And to make matters worse, the wind is making the bridge sway and the bridge is on fire. Now that is what guilt feels like. Guilt really is one of the scariest and most toxic of emotions. Most of us feel this feeling of guilt all the time, and it prevents us from living our best possible lives. However, you can use guilt to better understand yourself and your life. You can use it to change and grow. Normally, when we feel guilty, we get into a shell. We think of ourselves as bad people, and we feel we do not deserve love or good things. And this way, we negatively analyze guilt. But there is a positive way of analyzing guilt as well. And the positive way of analyzing guilt is by understanding that guilt is a warning system inside us. It tells us when we've strayed away from our true selves, from the values and beliefs that we hold dear in our hearts. And these could be values that are socially programmed into us, for sure. Or these are values that are uniquely ours. So coming back to the suspension bridge analogy, imagine one end of the bridge is attached to your true self, and the other end of the bridge is attached to your actions. If your actions were in line with your true self, then the gap would not exist. But the further you stray from your true self, the bigger the gap between the two grows. The longer the suspension bridge becomes, and the longer and the more dangerous it becomes. The only way to get over the guilt is to respond to it. To not be stuck in the middle of the bridge, you have to choose a side to walk towards, and you have to take responsibility. Now, responsibility is nothing more than the ability to respond. And you are responding to your true self calling you back, or are you responding to the actions that you chose? If you choose to come back to your true self, there is no more guilt because you've made a choice. And if you choose to go to the other side, the side of your actions that was different from your true self, then that becomes your new belief system. Then that becomes a part of your value system. And then again, there is no guilt. You see, guilt only exists when you have not made a choice between the two. Guilt exists when you're stuck in the middle of that bridge. So now just choose one side and own it. As your habit coach, I want you to be guilt-free. I want you to exist on higher planes with higher emotional states than just guilt. And that comes by taking responsibility and choosing a side. So your super simple habit starts by asking yourself, what is this guilt trying to tell me? What is it warning me about? And what action have I taken that has made me stray from my true self? Once you find that answer, take responsibility, and take action. No point living in guilt. If you ask me, with my fear of heights, I want to get off that suspension bridge as soon as possible. Usually, in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments, and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show for those who prefer listening to it in that language. Do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet speaks to the founding partner of Foxy Moron and Zoom Media, Pratik Gupta. He shares his vision of the future of advertising and content. On The Longest Constitution, Priya explores the constitutional provision of equal pay for equal work. On Tere Mere Raste, Keshav narrates the tragic love story of Baz Bahadur and Rani Rupmati of Mandu. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss tech alliances in the Indo-Pacific. And on Say No to Drama, Chetna enlightens us about karma and its true processes. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, please don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And remember, you can always check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to take a look at what those channels are. We're also doing a small listener survey to understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It really helps us build better shows for you and understand what you're looking for from advertising and what we can talk to advertisers about who you are. Please go to ivmpodcast.com/survey. It really would help us out. Thank you so much. And finally, would like to thank our sponsors for the network this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app. Thank you so much for making this possible.
We face 100 dilemmas every day while raising our children and nurturing our families. Why not let science help us make informed decisions to solve our dilemmas? Hi, I'm Devi Shobha.
And I'm Meghna. We host Big Talk About Tiny Humans, where we will help you unpack challenges around parenting and your child's development.
And more importantly, we will equip you with research-backed strategies that you can readily act on.
Tune in to our podcast every Wednesday on the IVM Podcasts app, website, or your favorite podcast platforms.